All right, welcome back. It's exactly 12 minutes after 2. We get into our discussion segment now. Last week, Standard Bank brought together industry heavyweights, including investors, policymakers, under one roof for a high-stakes Energy Indaba, a critical gathering that was aimed at finding real solutions for Eswatini's energy future. Right now, Eswatini still imports 80% of its electricity, mainly from South Africa, but that dependence is not sustainable, and the pressure is on to create homegrown, sustainable energy solutions. So what came out of this powerful meeting? What resolutions were made? And most importantly, how will they help put Eswatini on the path to energy independence and attract the investment that it needs? To break it all down, we are now joined by Barry Schatzler, Head of Corporate and Investment Banking at Standard Bank Eswatini, to unpack the outcomes of this crucial conversation and what it could mean for the future of energy in the kingdom of Eswatini. Barry, good afternoon to you. Welcome to the show. Let's begin with what matters most. What, in your view, were the most consequential resolutions that came out of this Indaba?
Good afternoon, and thanks for having us on your show. I think, to me, the most critical point that came out of the conference was, let me put it down to one word: collaboration. I think in order to drive this energy growth within the country and free up the capability and ability to generate our own power, we need collaboration. Collaboration between government, between private sector, between ISERA, and between EEC. I think the most important thing that came out of that is that we all need to be talking, we all need to be on the same page, and we all need to be pulling in the right direction. So, yeah, I think to me the most important takeaway from our conference was we need collaboration between ourselves and government, ISERA, EEC, etc., to ensure that these projects get off the ground and smoothly and operate and help us sustain our energy going forward.
And certainly, indeed, collaboration will be essential. But we often hear about energy independence in principle. I want to understand, based on the discussions that you guys had at the Indaba, how close or far is Eswatini from making that a reality?
Look, I think we're probably still quite a way off. But the journey has started, and that's the most important thing. I think we've been speaking about it for long enough. Now I think sort of the rubber's hitting the tarmac, and there's definitely I think there's definitely drive from the private sector and from government to make this happen. We've had our first success thus far with the Lower Magaduza project, which we signed off financial closure Christmas Eve last year. So that's in progress at the moment. There are 4 or 5 or 6 other projects in the pipeline that we're looking at. I was just looking at it earlier this morning. It's to the tune of about 10 billion Emalangeni's worth of projects that are in the pipeline. They're across various structures such as solar, wind, geothermal, hydro, etc. So there's quite a bit going on, and I think, you know, if we can get that right, we'll get quite a long way towards being self-sufficient. I think besides those projects, we probably need a bit more. In terms of ensuring that we are self-sufficient. I think we need at peak something like 240 megawatts. I think as Sarah mentioned, there's about 180 megawatts in their pipeline at the moment. So yes, it's early days, but I can say with confidence now that the rubber has hit the tarmac, and you know, it's not just talk anymore. I think there's real activity starting to happen.
Yeah, and obviously in that room you had heavyweights, you had investors, you had policymakers, and you have mentioned that, you know, the biggest takeaway from the conference was collaboration. How, according to your view, did these investors in that room respond to the country's energy investment case? Was there enough clarity to inspire confidence? Or, you know, this collaboration is just an aspiration?
Yeah, look, hopefully the collaboration isn't an aspiration. I think certainly from a Standard Bank's perspective, we would like to be and we're comfortable to be that mediator to pull all the parties together. So that we, as I say, we make sure we're all pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
So certainly from our side, there's definitely appetite from Standard Bank's side. And I think there's definitely appetite from other financial institutions like ECAs, development bank finance, etc. So yeah, I think the appetite's there. I think we just need to make sure that we make the transition or the development of that finance as smooth as possible and as efficient as possible.
Yeah, and of course
that comes through the collaboration. As I say, from a Standard Bank perspective, I think we.
Yeah, I would be remiss, Barry.
Sorry, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be remiss if I don't ask this important question. One of obviously the biggest critics around the implementation of this big aspiration that we all have has been the slow pace of implementation. Did the Indaba address what's been holding us back, and more importantly, how we overcome that inertia?
Yeah, as I say, I think. And I seem to be harping on this. I think the collaboration is the issue. So I think we've also been the process has taken some time to get to where it is. Eswatini has now signed off on contracts, so we have that in the bag. I think it's now from the financial perspective for the financiers to ensure that. It goes that the process is as smooth as possible. I'll give you, and I think the willingness is there. I'll give you an example of the Low Magaduza. There was an issue around the tariff when they worked out. There were issues around their VAT with Ministry of Finance. Which once all parties sort of got around the table and discussed it, that was ironed out, and the project was allowed to then move forward, and it remained viable. So I think that willingness is there, and I think from all parties, I think the commitment is there. So yes, time will tell if that commitment really is there. But I would like to believe, from my understanding, it is there, and we certainly, from our perspective, drive it as hard as possible.
Yeah, and I think, what the country can appreciate is your reiteration of Standard Bank's commitment in leading the charge in terms of, the role that Standard Bank envisions, at least for itself, not just as a financier, but as a development partner in this transition. I want to understand, finally, as we close, if we are sitting here 5 years from now, just me and you, Barry, what visible shifts would you hope to see that signal that indeed the Indaba wasn't just another meeting, but a real turning point?
Yeah, well, I would like to believe that, we've had these Indabas now for the past 3 years on an annual basis. We're looking to continue with that. I think our first 2 years was talk, as you've kind of intimated. This year we were able to say, here's a project we've done. So going forward over the next 5 years, I'd like to say that we were able to put all 180 megawatts of pipeline at the moment that Eswatini was referring to at the end. It's all online, and it's actually producing. I think it's very important for us to become self-sufficient, or as self-sufficient as possible, as quickly as possible, in order to encourage foreign direct investment into the country, to grow the economy, to develop jobs, and achieve the GDP that government is looking at, where I think at the moment they're talking about sort of 8% for this year. So I think it's critically important that on the energy side, we become self-sufficient and are no longer reliant on Eskom and their high prices, etc. So yeah, in 5 years' time, if we sat down together, I'd like to say that we've booked all 185 megawatts, and they are up and running. And we are producing at least, what does that take us to? It's probably about 60-70% of our requirements.
Well, Barry, thank you so much for your time. You enjoy the rest of your afternoon. There was Barry Schatzler from Standard Bank Eswatini, just making sense of what this Indaba could unlock for Eswatini, not only for the energy sector, but for the broader investment story of the Kingdom of Eswatini. Let's look at how markets are shifting after the break with our economist, Sanele Sibiya.